Defend Our Democracy is condemning the intimidation of healthcare workers during the ongoing Nehawu strike. The strike this week has been marred by violence and intimidation, leading to disruptions at healthcare facilities across the country. Defend Our Democracy is concerned about the impact this will have on patients. To discuss this further, we're joined by the organization's communications manager, Nonkululeko Mntambo. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, Nonkululeko. And maybe for those of us who weren't keeping abreast with the strike action that took place during the week, how bad did the situation get as workers down tools?
So the situation deteriorated in quite a few places. Recently, there were reports that there were about 4 deaths linked directly to the strike. In Charlotte Maxeke, there were about 33 C-sections that were not performed, and about only 2 theatres were functioning day before yesterday, as far as reports have gone out. At Rahima Musa, the community itself had to stop strikers. So there was a bit of a confrontation there. I know that there's also a case in the northwest, so quite a bit of disturbance around the country regarding the strike.
Quite a bit of disturbance you've described indeed. What have some of the contingency plans been put in place by the health institutions in conjunction with stakeholders like yourselves? Have people had to be moved around to make sure that they get the care that they need?
So I have, with Defend Our Democracy, I think given the scope of work that we do, we wouldn't be involved in the contingency plans made, but we do understand that there have been plans made for patients to be moved to different hospitals to be taken care of, and even other health workers themselves who've taken to feeding and making sure that patients are taken care of while there's still a tools down by other healthcare workers. So there's been quite a all-round effort for these patients to be taken care of, yes.
What is it that you're calling for Nehawu to do now? Because they do have their dispute as public service providers who've not been receiving adequate increases, and this is now the last resort that they have taken. So you, as Defend Our Democracy, are you engaging the union at all? And what is it that you would like to see happen?
So fundamentally, we believe that people have the right to strike. This is something that is enshrined in the Constitution. Protest is something that is a legal and legitimate tool to express your dissatisfaction. However, what we're highlighting is that the collateral damage, your casualties from such actions can't be innocent, and especially people who can't defend themselves. And in the case of NUMSA, it's quite ironic that this poor public that is defenseless is the same one that they claim to represent and want to serve. So what we are calling for is a seizing of the violence, and hopefully that there's going to be greater talks that will lead to a peaceful resolution to the issues that they're currently facing, because the legitimacy of them is not what we are questioning right now. It's just the methodology that is being used to get to a conclusion.
Did you get a sense of whether police intervened in last week's strike? And do you expect that they will be there to monitor and protect those who choose to go in and work and who really just don't want to be intimidated by the striking workers, should they continue on this path?
From the reaction of Westbury residents who had to take to the street themselves to block certain striking workers, we do think there's a legitimate problem in policing in the country. So in terms of our expectation of the police, we would love them to act in a more efficient and more professional manner going forward. However, thus far, there has been a great lag on that part, which has led to many casualties, many injuries, and many people being kept from their work. So we would call for better policing in this regard, but so far, I think we're not impressed.
Yeah, earlier in our conversation, you did mention that there have been disruptions across parts of the country, and Minister of Health Joe Phatla actually indicated that the damage that was caused at Charlotte Maxeke, for example, will be leading to some legal investigations because of the deaths that have since occurred. Tell us about some of the other destructive events that have happened in other parts of the country, and if they were as bad as what we saw here.
From our understanding, especially with the Department of Health in the Northwest having legally charged and called for an end to the violence, we do understand that there has been at the very least, equal destruction in other parts of the country. We know that people were kept from even entering the hospitals in part of the Northwest itself. So there is quite a nationwide uprising in this regard. However, in terms of the casualties and the injuries sustained, I don't think we can confirm at this point.
No, thank you very much for that update. We really appreciate it. That is spokesperson for Defend Our Democracy, Nonkululeko Mntambo, joining us there to speak about the disruptions caused by Nehawu strike.